Welcome to the Inspiration North podcast, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Today's episode, Creating a Business Around Your Passions with Emma Baylin. We talk about the importance of investing in staff happiness and well-being, the physiological response we have when we sing, and how things feel easy when you're on the right track.
Emma's passions include the power of human connection, improving health and well-being, and singing. She's a highly recognised trainer and facilitator with 30 years' experience delivering on a range of organisational development topics. She has developed national programmes for clients, including NHS England and NHS Improvement. Emma specialises in helping organisations address complex challenges and implement solutions by guiding participants through an experiential journey, applying learning to their own practice and developing clear actions. With Shared Harmony CIC, she has worked with some of the UK's leading companies, including Nissan, Hermes, Royal Canin, Vincent Masons and PwC. Shared Harmonies reinvest profits into community programmes for participants affected by health and wellbeing conditions. So Emma, thank you ever so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. It's really nice to be here.
Awesome. So what we're going to do, first of all, is ask you the question we ask everybody, turns out. Did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I have always loved singing. I had a wonderful experience, which I now know is very different to most people's experience. But when I was about 4 or 5, a teacher pulled me aside at the end of our school assembly and told me he thought that I could sing. And I believed him, because you believe what you're told at that age. And that just developed into a passion for singing that stayed with me for life. So I sang solos in school plays, and as I got older, I used to kind of go and sing at folk nights in local pubs, and I've joined a few kind of amateur bands doing both original songs and cover songs. But I think I was kind of led to believe that I wouldn't be able to make a career out of it, that singing, was something that was only, something you could make a career out of for a very small number of people. So kind of put that dream to one side, and it was always more of a hobby and a passion. But I also always knew that I wanted to work with people. So from being really young, and that I had an interest in kind of social issues and health issues. So even while still at school, I used to volunteer with a local voluntary organisation that worked with young people who'd been affected by homelessness or addiction. And I also trained as a peer counsellor. And even while I was still kind of in a teenager myself, I decided that I wanted to get into kind of youth and community work, which is what I did for a number of years, straight from school, followed on from my volunteering, went into kind of paid work. And I did that for a number of years and got a real specialism in health and well-being. And then when I was in my mid-20s, I had my son, and I went to like a family camp, and somebody there was leading a singing circle. And it was I just had such a profound kind of response to it, and just that amazing sense of connection and well-being and just bliss while I was kind of part of this session, and thought, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. So I looked into it and basically kind of did my research and decided from that moment on that I wanted to create something that drew together my 3 major passions in life, which is singing, obviously, that interest in health and well-being, but also that sense of creating connection and community that had been so instrumental in everything that I'd kind of done in life, and my values and my kind of family values and all that. So that's how Shared Harmonies ended up being created, from a passion to bring those three, I was going to say interests, but more than that, my three kind of core values really together into something. So yes, in lots of ways, I have always known what I wanted to do. It just took me quite a few years to bring it together, to consolidate that into an idea that would work, and then be in a kind of position in life to bring all that together and make it work. So I finally founded Shared Harmonies in 2013, and only went full time doing that when the year I turned 40. So I decided that was the year that if I was ever going to do it, I needed, and do it properly, that I needed to kind of do it then. So yeah.
Do you think that the years of experience, the community work, actually almost having the idea in a slow cooker, do you think, I'm not phrasing the question very well, let's say you had an idea very early on versus actually doing lots of things to then get to the point to bring your three passions together, do you think anything would have differed?
Absolutely. I think it would have been really different. And I think the way that I have designed the services that we deliver within Shared Harmonies, both from a community perspective and a corporate perspective, are very much informed by that experience. And I don't think there would be a patch on what they are now in terms of the value we give to people, in terms of the professional standards that we deliver, in terms of, I just think they would look completely different. So, within my career, I have done, I've done training the trainer courses. I've been an experienced facilitator and trainer. I've done lots of work around leadership. I've been a manager. All those things have been brought together to inform the session that we do around leadership. The way that I've approached the community side of the business is very much informed by those years of working with voluntary and community and charitable organisations through the work that I've done. The whole way that I decided to make it a community interest company rather than a charity or a business were very much informed by those years of practice. And that real driver for it to be something that could be sustainable in its own rights, although we are eligible for some funding streams, so that we didn't have to work around, just working with people for 10 weeks and then kicking them out to work with the next group of people or whatever, that we could actually be something that supported people for the length of the time that they would get in value from that support. And again, that's something that's been, that's really important to me. So yeah, absolutely. It has been fully informed by all those things. And every time I do, do a refresh of the business plan or look at the services we do and, evaluate our impact, it's very much informed by those years of experience and the years of reflective practice that I was taught to do in being a practitioner of kind of youth and community services. So yeah, absolutely. And I don't think it would have happened. I don't think Shared Harmonies would have happened those many years ago. I didn't know things like that existed. I thought if you wanted a career as a singer, you had to be a singer. And I think I could have pursued that dream, and I may or may not have done something with that. But I don't think, and I think that would have fulfilled a part of me, and it would have been amazing because I still love to sing. I still love it. I love performing. But the sense of achievement that I get from delivering Shared Harmonies, knowing that I can give back to people while I'm doing it, that I'm doing a service within businesses that actually makes a difference for people. And then on top of that, I can reinvest that profit into services in the community that make a bigger difference for more people, all through something that I love and get pleasure from personally is like amazing. It
hit the jackpot dream.
Absolutely, and I never ever would have envisaged that something like that was possible when I was younger, because I didn't know that people created businesses like that or could work in them or how to go about it. It still doesn't mean that, like, I know everything about everything now, because I'm still learning. But yeah, it definitely life experiences has completely informed the way that the organisation was set up and is run.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about Shared Harmony? So what's the mission?
The mission is to improve well-being, connection, and confidence through inspirational singing. So we have two distinct offers. We specialise in services in corporate environments that enable teams and organisations to thrive. So we deliver team building, well-being, and leadership sessions. And we reinvest all the profits from that in our community well-being programmes, where we specifically work with people with a range of long-term health or well-being conditions. So we specialise in working with people with long-term respiratory conditions like COPD, people living with Parkinson's or dementia, people affected by trauma or mental health, people affected by cancer. And we do all that through a range of services. So usually all that is face-to-face, and we do wonderful kind of lovely big community singing groups. But at the moment it's all online. So we're delivering through Zoom and Facebook, and also some co-creative songwriting projects. So we've created 3 amazing pieces of music that we've co-created with all our participants during the last 18 months, which has been
wow.
That's fascinating. When I think of singing, it's almost something we all start off with as children. We used to murder, like Morning Is Broken.
Oh yeah,
a terrible.
Nobody can sing that. I bet you can, but no, it's a hard one.
No one could ever hit the high notes. But we all started every day with singing together as a group. And what a lovely way to start the day. And I wonder if you mentioned patients, say, with dementia, or I find that, this is massive speculation, but songs bring so many memories back. And there are so many lovely things with music that if you're connecting with other people, I can totally see why it's such an uplifting activity. It's not really something I'd considered before, but
absolutely. And again, I feel really lucky, both for the tale I told you about, the teacher that told me I could sing when I was young, which I now know a lot of people who've had the exact opposite experience and were told that they couldn't sing or that they had to mime in the school choir. But also my whole family sing. So not professionally, but, we just love singing. So every year, at least once a year, my entire family get together. So that's my aunts and uncles, my cousins' kids, my son. There's loads of us, and we eat and drink, but then most of the time is spent singing together. And that's just been what I've grown up with. And I kind of thought that was normal. I realised it isn't, but it's amazing. It's literally amazing. It's like one of the highlight events of my year is just standing around with my mad family singing for hours in the kitchen. It's amazing. So I always knew that singing made you feel incredible because I'd experienced it so many times. But I actually didn't know why. And it was only as I was setting up the company that I wanted to try and explain to other people about what we did that I looked into the research. And singing is phenomenal. We actually have a physiological response that we're not in control of when we sing. And the amazing thing about it is that it's not associated to how good you or anybody else thinks you are. Just giving singing a go gives you all these amazing impacts. So it actually releases a whole load of neurotransmitters or happiness hormones that do all these amazing things. So we release endorphins, which give you that sense of euphoria, but also interrupt your perception of pain. We release oxytocin, which is the trust hormone, which we release when we give somebody a hug. And that prompts other people to release oxytocin. So when you sing together as a group, as you may have experienced in your school assemblies or your church choirs or your community singing, sitting around the campfire, you actually get this sense of like friendship just from having sung together, but maybe didn't realize why. And we literally release kind of all the 4 or 5, happiness hormones. And it also releases, it reduces the amount of stress hormone present in the body. We release dopamine and serotonin, things that are associated with learning and memory and sleep and appetite, so that's why it makes you feel amazing. But bigger than that too, when you sing with others, you get that sense of being part of something that's bigger than yourself, which is part, one of the kind of well-being pillars of, what makes us feel stable and happy, and that sense of well-being. And you're right, music speaks to emotions. So any one of us could think about a time when that song has spoken to that heartbreak we've experienced, or that, has reminded us of that wonderful time that we maybe had with somebody who's no longer with us, or that brings us out of a really bad mood that we're in because you just can't help but tap your foot or sing along to something on the radio. It's truly amazing. And the research is still quite new. So, it's ongoing, and all the time they're uncovering amazing new things. Like, because of the way we breathe when we sing, when you sing with a big group of people, people's heart rates synchronize. Just like amazing, amazing things.
Humans are fascinating.
Yeah. It's what's your sort of go-to something to sing in the shower, or when you want to feel a bit more uplifted? Is it a musical? Is it?
I mean, my range of music is huge because, as I say, we do this family singing. So, I was brought up singing along to 60s stuff. So, my family sing things like Everly Brothers, and, They sing Running Bear is one of their favourites that they sing around the table, because they've all got like daft kind of tapping and extra bits that they sing. Me and my sis sing all the 80s power ballads when we get together. Whereas actually my listening music is actually more in the kind of 80s teenage angst and nobody understands me phase that I've never moved on from, really. So I listen to things like Smiths and Depeche Mode and and I still love that now. I still love the tapping into that feeling of like, teenage angst. Because it's good. It's good to remember those roots, especially when I've got a teenager myself, and I can kind of think, yeah, I get how he's feeling right now because I remember feeling that. It helps me tap back into it. But I also love, a musical, and big fan of musicals. Again, I grew up kind of watching Rodgers and Hammerstein. So me and my sis know like the words to all those musicals off by heart. We can recite Sound of Music from start to finish.
Yep.
Lyrics as words as well as the songs. But I also like classical music. So literally anything goes. And I really love the world music that we use a lot in the community singing that we do, because I think, like you said, that is our heritage. Singing is our heritage. Years and years and years ago, that's what we did across the world. People got together, people lived in much smaller communities, and that's how they shared histories, was through songs and through storytelling. And it's in us that we want to still do that. What changed was that people started to make it, try and make it something. So you either, you could only sing if you were part of an elite class, and it had to be sung in a certain way. And so then people started to go, you can and you can, you're good at this, you're not good at that, and put restrictions around it. And that stayed with us to this weird culture that we've got now, where literally teachers will say to a 4-year-old, the exact opposite of me, you can't sing, you're not good enough to sing. And it makes us feel, that our voices are not good enough to share, which to me is just I think it's outrageous, you know, thankfully it's starting to change a little bit, but we've just seen again in the news recently, you know, there's a whole petition going on at the minute because they're wanting to cut funding into music in schools again, because it's not seen as important. And yet all the research is there to show that when people are involved in music and creativity, it actually aids their ability to process all the other stuff, the academic stuff, that's seen as important. And the two things are not separate. You know, you need, somebody once explained it to me as, you know, like your brain's like a computer, and you actually need the battery to power the bit that does the processing. And the creative bit of your brain is the battery that helps power the other bit. You can't take them away. So, you know, we need that sense of creativity and singing and music and all that stuff. You know, it's vitally important.
Yeah.
It's maybe, again, I pluck these out of thin air, but I often think, my parents both worked in education, and it was towards the end of their careers, it was so much about league tables and scores on maths and science, possibly because it's something you can measure.
Yeah.
Whereas the creative side it's perhaps a bit harder to measure, but I think back to, we used to do music, and you get to try instruments and go on various creative things, and that's all. We've talked to a number of guests, haven't we, where excuse me, creative or team building activities all lead to better problem solving,
innovation,
calmness in the group, ability to cope with deadlines, that kind of thing. And we'll probably look back at some point and think, oh yeah, we went too far
the other way,
too far with academics.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, it always, you know, I mean, even if you think about science and invention, you need to be able to imagine something that didn't exist in order to then develop a hypothesis and test it out. If we stop teaching children how to imagine and how to create and how to develop things that we never believed were possible, how are we ever going to progress all the other stuff that is seen as valuable? I sometimes think, is that too much of a simplistic view? But I actually can't tangibly understand how it is possible if we don't do those things. And I also think, particularly over the last year, you know, we've seen the importance of things like human connection, of the importance of well-being, that if those things are not addressed, nobody can do all the other stuff. So unless you feel happy in yourself, unless you feel okay, unless you feel like you've got a sense of connection with other people, unless you've got a sense of, you know, kind of purpose and creativity, all those other things, you don't function well in all the other roles that, you know, that we do value. And I think that's becoming more and more important. You know, the world of kind of workplace well-being has just exploded over the last few years, but for really good reason, because people have realized that actually, if you want to increase productivity, if you want to up your profitability, if you want your staff to come to work and do what you're paying them to do, well, then you need to invest in their happiness, their well-being, the way that they communicate with each other, the kind of shared vision, the cohesiveness, their mental health, their happiness. All that's really important.
Yep.
You've cracked it. Yeah. Every business does that. Yeah.
No, I find it fascinating why so many companies don't see it, and it's a bit of a tick box checklist exercise. Oh, we need to do something about well-being. Everyone's a bit sad. It's all a bit shit. Football tables, free fruit Fridays. That should do it, shouldn't it?
Oh, I know, and I mean it, because We've known about this stuff for years, haven't we? I mean, it was part of the Industrial Revolution where people started to go, oh, actually, if we provide sanitation and housing and better food for our workers, wow, they work better. This stuff isn't new. Isn't new, and yet so many people are not getting it. And I think you're right. They are often missing the point. And I've experienced a lot of these kind of quick win wellbeing solutions.
There'll be an app somewhere, surely. Just get an app.
Absolutely. And they actually, what they've been proven to do often is actually widen those gaps between those that feel happy and with a good sense of well-being and those that don't, because they're really good. If somebody is already feeling able to exercise and able to go to the gym and feel happy about their body image and their own well-being, well, that's a great perk, isn't it? If there's an organisation that offers that, absolute tick box, I'll want to go and work there. But if you feel really bad about your own self-image, if you are feeling that you don't have any energy, seeing your colleagues go ahead and doing that while you feel like you can't do it actually makes those people feel worse. It's not engaging. It doesn't make people that are not ready to go, well, I know, I've never been able to do it for the last kind of 50 years, but suddenly because you've joined, you've given me this app, I'm now going to improve my well-being. It doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. Whereas actually creating a sense of acceptance, creating a culture in which people feel able to talk, creating an environment in which colleagues feel like they can support each other, in enabling opportunities where people actually talk rather than emailing the person sat next to them, which so many people do. Those are the things that actually start to enable people to explore new things, where people feel safe, where people feel heard, where people feel understood. That's where we feel able to address some of those other things that maybe we've been feeling more unhappy about. That's when we, and doing it collectively, feeling like other people have got your back. That's what makes a difference. And, things like the apps and, whatever else, they can be helpful tools, but you have to have the right conditions and the right foundations and the right culture in place in order for those tools to actually be successful.
Yeah. And I think this stuff's hard, isn't it? That getting those foundations in place, because it's that unmeasurable, and quite often there's a problem that needs fixing now, and these things aren't fixed in a half an hour, half a day, 3-week training course. This is like quite fundamental stuff. And it's almost that meme that we like, as a GIF, I think, that you've got a little toddler running into a room and they look in the room and they go, ooh, and they do like a quick turnaround and run out the room. It's like that as soon as they start uncovering this sort of stuff. It's like, oh, too hard, too expensive. Wouldn't know where to start, run away.
Absolutely. And I think because we've got this real blame culture as well these days, that people are worried about getting it wrong. People are worried about admitting that they've maybe got it wrong in the past. And I think you're right. I think because it all feels really big, that feels overwhelming. And one of the things that, we do a lot when we take singing into businesses is we break it down into really accessible chunks. So the first thing we get people to do is just have a bit of a laugh together while they're warming up and start to make eye contact and, just really little things. And then we might start to make a sound, and then we kind of, then we'll do a really simple song. And we don't, if I went in, it's, the reaction I get when I say to people, we're going to sing it all is people are terrified enough. If I actually said we were going to do a 5-part harmony, people would be beyond terrified, and I wouldn't get them engaged. So I don't do that. I break it down into bite-sized chunks, and we make sure that we validate each stage, and we build people up. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to create a sense of safety within organisations for managers too, to feel like they can try things and that it's okay to try something and doesn't work. That's part of the learning process. They don't have to be blamed for something or made to feel like they failed. It's about, okay, we tried that thing. What can we learn from it? Building in this sense of kind of reflection and it being a journey. And yes, you can bring in some of those quick wins. Yes, you can bring in a yoga session or introduce the fruit and any of those other things, but it needs to be done as part of a bigger picture. Mm-hmm. And it needs to be done in communication with your team. What are their interests? I remember going back to work in an organisation just after I'd had my son, so this is going back a long time now, and they'd organised a team building activity, and they'd organised to go paintballing, and I was like, I was just back, and I was still breastfeeding, and I was like, okay, well, I won't be coming to that then, because just thinking about what's inclusive, what's going to get people on board, having conversations with your team members, without then feeling like you've got to promise everything to everybody, because I think that's the other thing that terrifies people, isn't it? What if everybody says something different? Well, then talk to them about what do you do about it?
They'll have the answer.
Absolutely. How do we solve that problem together?
You lot go paintballing. We'll go for afternoon tea. See you later.
We'll find a way of sharing afterwards about what worked and what didn't and the fun we had, or, yeah.
It's crackers, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this is a funny one. So I think I was probably one of those children that was not particularly confident. So my not confident singing voice and my slightly more confident singing voice are two different voices, it turns out. And James has been the first kind of boyfriend that I've ever felt sort of fairly comfortable singing in front of, which is really weird.
Yeah. And you know what? So many people, more people tell me that they were the ones that were told they couldn't sing at school than people that tell me they're confident in the voice. And I would say now in both the corporate world and the community world, probably a good 90% of my participants tell me that they can't sing, tell me that they'll be the one voice that clears the room, tell me that they're really out of their comfort zone. And, so I always try and make things feel really safe for people. And I make promises at the beginning of the session. And like I say, we create that kind of environment in which people feel safe to give it a go. And in the corporate world, we actually use that sense of being out of the comfort zone as part of the learning experience. Because again, we know that one of the things that makes people disengage at work is being too much in their comfort zone and never being kind of stretched. And so we use part of that, well, what does it feel like to get out of your comfort zone? How can we use that to kind of stretch and learn and reflect? And we actually find that the ones that the ones that were quite nervous at the beginning, that were out the comfort zone, are actually the ones that get the biggest impacts from the session, because they get that added bonus. Whereas the ones that were like, yeah, we're gonna sing, they have a great time, but the learning's not as profound. And I think I did a session once for a big organisation. I think there must have been 150 people in the team that we were working with. And I told that tale about, I feel really lucky. I got told I could sing when I was younger, but I know that's not everyone's experience. And I did my session and I left because they had more team day to get on with. And I saw, as I was leaving down the side of this hall, I saw out of the corner of my eye a woman kind of running across the back of the room. And she followed me out of the door and she grabbed me and she went, that was me. I got told I couldn't sing. And she said, I'm in my 50s now and I have never shared my voice in front of anybody since I was 5 or 6 ever. And that was just the most liberating and cathartic experience I have ever had. And just thank you so much for giving me back my voice. That's so powerful. It's just amazing to feel like we can take that to people. And I always say singing is the methodology that we use, but our company is about so much more than that. You know, it is about giving people a sense of getting their voice back. It is about giving people that sense of connection. It is about improving well-being. It's about learning and reflection, you know, and it's so much more powerful. And we just happen to use singing as a methodology. But yeah, you know, so it really upsets me still when I hear people saying, you know, I was told that I couldn't sing, or, you know, oh, and I still get it all the time. People hearing what I've got to say about our company offer and going, oh, that sounds amazing, until I mention singing. And then you can see them going, oh, I don't think we could possibly do that, you know, and then going on to talk to the next person who's selling the app or whatever else. And it's like, oh, okay. But it's
and then find out that artificial intelligence won't solve.
It's not coming to save us. No. No.
Come back to me when that doesn't work.
No. I know. I'm like that. It's like, oh, we're going to try that then. Okay. We'll speak to you in 6 months then. Oh, bless. So what's the plan for world domination then, Emma?
Oh, you know, you can tell I love this stuff, and I just want everybody to be able to experience it. And I have found that when people do experience it, they want more. So when I've taken it into environments where people didn't know that that's what we were going to do, you know, they often then want to take that back into their kind of environment. It's just how to kind of create the opportunities for that to happen. But yeah, you know, and it's fab meeting people like you guys that do other things that are kind of connected and interrelated. And I think, and what I've found is there's this wonderful culture, and particularly, you know, and I know you've got other common connections, and a lot of us are kind of based around like Manchester or Yorkshire or kind of Lancashire area, but there seems to be this real sense of collaboration as well, and people opening up this space to share ideas and to support each other and to collaborate. And I think that's so important, because I think we all know that what we're doing is amazing, but it's, again, one small part of the puzzle. And if we can collaborate and bring that sense of, you know, well, I know this amazing person who'll help you think about your work-based culture. And then once you've done that, we might be able to come in and kind of do something that helps you consolidate that thinking, and do something that helps people really embed that learning in a deeper way. And then I know this other fab person who might be able to come in and do something else that kind of impacts that in a different way. And I think that's so important. And I love it, because that's one of my core values, is kind of collaboration and connection. That's why part of the reason I set my company up.
Yeah, I keep telling people that literally all we need in organisations are to feel like we belong, to feel protected, and to feel safe. And it's like, if you got that, then have at it. The world is your oyster.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Honestly, you know, like we were saying earlier, when you go in and you feel like you don't really know any of your colleagues to say more than hello to, and you're not, you know, there is that sense of kind of blame or no risk taking, or, you know, and you're not feeling great because you've got something going on at home, how on earth are you ever going to be productive? You're just not, are you?
No. Yeah. And we're not designed to sit at a desk for 8 hours a day. Our brains don't work that way.
No.
You know.
So building, you know, lunchtime sing, and then you can go back feeling rejuvenated.
Yeah.
ready to work again.
Yeah.
Sounds perfect. So we've talked a little bit there about the company side of things. What about on the community side?
So in the community side, as I say, we tended to work with people with long-term health or wellbeing conditions. But during the last kind of 14 months that we've been in very different circumstances, we've delivered slightly differently. So some of our groups we've kept as separate groups, but we've also done a lot of bringing everybody together in terms of one big group. And we've done a lot of projects that help us reach out to an even wider audience, because we've seen, you know, such a huge impact that the last 14 months has had on so many people that maybe have never struggled with loneliness before, that have never struggled with mental health before. And suddenly, you know, people are experiencing this sense of loss and grief and loneliness and all this stuff. So we've been offering kind of weekly Zoom sing-alongs, and we've been doing sing-alongs on Facebook, but we've also done a few collaborative songwriting projects. So we started off early on in the first lockdown, and we asked people about a connection and what connection meant to them. And we asked a few different things in a few different ways. So we asked people about their sense of connection to others, and if they'd found new ways of connecting when we were kind of locked down, because in that first lockdown, we weren't allowed to see anybody, we were, and people weren't allowed to have bubbles or anything. We asked people about their connection to nature. And we asked people about their connection to self as well. Had they learned anything new about themselves? And we just got such beautiful feedback from people across the country. So we worked with activity coordinators in 2 residential care homes as well, who worked with their residents through different creative means. And we ended up having over 300 people involved in either suggesting ideas or then sending us videos of themselves singing the song once we'd created it. And the song was called Our Song, and it went on to win. So we're based in Calderdale, and it went on to win the Calderdale Community Spirit Award for Arts and Culture, which we were just completely overwhelmed and really, you know, really made up about. So, and then we did another song for Christmas because people were experiencing a real sense of feeling really down again, that they couldn't connect with family. So we did a little singing project after that. And then we were looking around for inspiration, and Welcome to Yorkshire launched a competition called Song for Yorkshire, where they wanted people to produce a song to be a theme song for Yorkshire. So again, we put out feelers, and we got a couple of 100 people sharing their love and passion for Yorkshire and created a song. And we were runners up in that competition. So out of hundreds and hundreds of applicants, I think we got over 4,000 votes for our song. So we've done that, and then we're just doing a final one now, which is to evaluate our impacts over the last year. And we're just in the final stages of pulling that together. So we've asked people for feedback about what it's meant to be part of this Shared Harmonies community over the last 14 months. And again, the feedback has just been, it makes me cry. It's just amazing to feel like we've been able to provide that sense of connection for people. And a lot of our participants, you know, were the first ones to be locked down and the ones that have been released the latest. I mean, some of them literally have been no further than their own backyard for 14 months, because they've been shielding and had to protect themselves. And they've known that every week there's this community that's there online to meet them, to greet them, to talk with them. And there's been such a sense of camaraderie for people, you know. It's just been so heartwarming. It's been amazing, and a real privilege to be able to deliver that for people. So yeah, that it's been incredible, and I think it's kept us going as a team as well. Having something to focus on, knowing that we're doing that. So a lot of our corporate work stopped during COVID because obviously people weren't getting together. It's starting to open up a bit again now. People are getting a sense that they can still access things online. So we've done a few online event energizers and team building sessions, which has been really positive. But having that sense of being able to focus on our community participants for the last year has kept us going as well as a team, and knowing that we're doing something that's making a difference has been amazing.
That's fabulous.
Really cool.
Are you ready to lower the tone now with the quick fire questions, Emma?
Go ahead.
Take it away.
Question number 1, an interesting one. We're talking about apps, weren't we? What are the 3 best apps on your phone?
I hate technology. I absolutely hate it, but I have to use it. I use WhatsApp a lot. I don't know what else I use.
The phone app and the picture app.
Dial people. Yeah, camera. I use my camera a lot, mainly to snap pictures of my cat. I think that's probably about it.
That's brilliant. Good answer. Thank you.
I do use Facebook and Twitter for business, but I do it kind of grudgingly with it.
Yes.
It's just between us.
I love it. Okay, question number 2. What's the most annoying noise?
Oh, that's a really good question. I actually think I'm really good at tuning out annoying noises. So I used to give my son, when he was really little, when everybody else took away the toys that made noises, I just used to give my son like pots and pans and wooden spoons and just let him sit there and like bang things and make noise. And, we sing a lot. So I've got really good at just tuning that out. And I think there's not a lot of noises that actually annoy me.
That's good.
Good skill to have, isn't it? So question 3, if everything in your house had to be one colour, which colour would you choose?
Can I have 2? Yeah. My favourite colours are green and burnt orange. I'm a very autumnal coloured person in everything. So my whole house is actually painted cream. But all the touches, the colour touches around the house are green and burnt orange.
Nice colours. What colours would yours be?
I don't know.
Purple.
Yeah, that's my partner's favourite colour. We're going for a burnt orange and purple theme at our wedding next year.
Oh, okay. I'm going to ask my little boy this question when we get home from school. I'm really intrigued to find out what his answer is.
I think my son's would be black because he's going through that like teenage angst phase. So, everything would just be black.
It's hard. So the last question we ask all of our guests, if you could go back to 18-year-old Emma and have a wee chat, what advice would you give?
I think I would probably tell myself to trust more in that kind of instinct, that gut instinct, a sense that I think we're encouraged not to listen to often. And I think it's key. Mm-hmm. And I think as I've got older, I think more often than not, when something feels right, it is. And when something doesn't, it really isn't. And sitting with that feeling and then being able to kind of question why, and is it something that you can make small tweaks to make it feel okay? Or is it actually something that really isn't good for you and you need to move on? I've spent too many years sat in jobs that have made me unwell because the environment has been toxic. Same in relationships, in many aspects of my life. And I think we get brought up to think that life should be hard, that everything should be hard work. And if we're not working hard, we're not doing it right. And actually, my experience is when things feel easy, it's because you're on the right track.
Amen.
So that's it. Trust that and go with where things feel good.
So for our listeners, if you'd like to follow or get in touch with Emma, best place, look for her on LinkedIn or go to the website sharedharmonies.co.uk. We've really enjoyed chatting with you today, Emma. Appreciate you joining us. Thankfully, you didn't try and make us sing.
No, I was a bit scared about that
one. Got through the project.
Next time.
So, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's so lovely to meet other like-minded, values-driven people doing amazing things in the world of well-being. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person.
If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.